Good evening, treasure seekers. This is Blake coming to you live from New Mexico, and joining me as always from Washington State, it's Cody and Bryn. How's it going, guys?
Why don't I answer that question, Blake? Why don't I answer how it's going? During the intro music, Bryn just said that I should answer first this time because she always answers first. I normally purposely don't say anything so that we're not talking over each other right at the beginning of the podcast. But um, we're doing well. Well, I guess I'll speak for myself. I'm doing well. Uh, all indications are that Bryn's doing well. I did I did break my tooth this week, so that
Oh
was
no,
something interesting. No, no, you really put me on the spot here. I need to call my dentist tomorrow.
it's
I
not
literally like,
noticeable.
no, it's in the back, but I like sheared like the front of it off, so it's
Ooh,
like it only hurts a little bit when I eat something hot or cold. But I need to call the dentist because it's just like raw tooth back there
ouch.
right now.
How'd you break it? You're eating a jawbreaker or a Jelly Rancher,
Uh,
Charleston
yeah,
Chew.
just eating. It wasn't even like anything like particularly hard. I think it just like I don't think it was like a cute thing where it like snapped. I think it was probably wearing out over time.
Hmm.
This is I think maybe I'll go first from now on.
This is what you
Good
asked for.
good dental update, Cody. Good banter, good banter.
This is what you asked for. How are you,
Fair enough.
Bryn?
I'm doing well. It was a very busy weekend, but I felt like I kind of stepped outside of the Pokemon box world a little bit and was thinking more big picture, lion's share, book as a whole, which was a little refreshing. Um, And it was a good exercise for my brain to think in a different way for a little bit, which was nice. So I'm excited for this episode. I think we have some good topics to discuss.
I
So
think what
yeah,
the people really want to know is how are your teeth?
Teeth are doing well. They are all intact. Still wearing my retainer at night. Thanks for asking.
Well, don't take them for granted.
that's
Yeah.
right. So is your horseshoes and hand grenades Bryn Lion Share related?
Yes, I suppose it is.
Okay,
Yeah, whole book.
so this is very Lion Share heavy episode today. Then that's exciting.
Our
Except for
largest treasure.
Cody's. Yeah, I want to be the stickler and say, you mean the largest treasure? You mean the poem at the end of the book?
Oh my gosh, you're stealing all of my topics for discussion.
Oh really? Okay, sorry.
Oh no, it's just really funny. Okay.
All right, let's start out with some news. All right, one piece of news, and then I don't know if your general topic discussion goes in the news segment or somewhere else, Bryn, but 1 to 2 topics for news today. First, I'm very excited to report that there's a new Matthew Hobbies video out today, or not today, but earlier this week actually. And he is going to do a chapter by chapter synopsis. So I'm very excited about that
Oh.
because I love Matthew Hobbies videos. We're a little bit long form, let's say, and Matthew Hobbies is like very succinct and he crams a lot of information in about 20 to 25 minutes usually. So everybody, if you're not subscribed to Matthew Hobbies, and I will put a link in the description below, I think that is newsworthy because I really like the content that he puts out. If you're not subscribed to Matthew Hobbies, what are you doing? Highly recommend. His episodes are fairly irregular, so we have a weekly show obviously here. He puts out content once a month or so, I would say, but when it pops out, make sure you're subscribed so you get a notification so you can watch it right away. But he already did his first episode on the introduction, table of contents, etc., how to read this book. So highly recommend that.
That's really
Matthew,
exciting. I feel like we
Matthew
need to do
Hobbies.
a collab. Matthew Hobby's collab.
We kind of did. He had a mailbag that I was,
Yeah,
we covered
yeah.
a couple episodes ago where he used his slide format and everything with the color scheme that I like. So, all right, Matthew Hobby's collaboration. That's what we're shooting for.
Nice. I'm definitely going to be subscribing to that one.
Yes. Bryn, you have a topic of general discussion you want to talk about?
Yeah, so this is not news. But I had over the weekend when I was working on some stuff, I went back to listen to the Treasure Hunt with Us podcast. Or sorry, their interview with Jon Collins-Black. And as I was listening to it, I kept picking up on a few things that I realized I had noticed in other interviews as well that I just feel like really hasn't been discussed in too much depth, at least that I've seen. Again, I'm not heavy on Discord or anything right now, so hopefully this isn't repetitive. But I wanted to get your guys' take on the Jon Collins-Black semantics of what he's calling boxes, what he's calling parts of the book, because it really seems like he's, even if someone is saying something correctly about the book, he will correct them to say it in the way that he wants it to be said. So a few examples. And again, this one I think makes the most sense. When people say the lion's share, he will correct them and say, you mean our largest treasure, which is fair because at no point has the lion's share been named the lion's share. He just refers to it as the lion's share. Yes, Blake.
I think Cody's going to say the same thing. But there is one instance of somewhat of an official name of the lion's share, which is the ebooks put out by Baker.
That's right.
And Taylor, just so you don't get a bunch of angry comments in the YouTube section.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
The lion's share treasure is the title, the subtitle on that largest treasure ebook. But I agree with you that overall, especially in the interviews, that yes, he does not refer to it as the lion's share.
And he will even say, and I think in all these instances, he'll say, you mean, like as if to correct you, you mean our largest treasure.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one key differentiation where he corrects people. The second is he does not call it Joy's Serenade, but he refers to it as, you mean the long poem at the end of the book, which we kind of got a glimpse of because in the table of contents, it's just called the final poem, right? Or this is embarrassing.
I can look it up. Yeah.
Thank you. But it's not called Joy's Serenade in the table of contents. However, the poem is named Joy's Serenade.
Yeah, final poem is how it's listed in the table of contents.
And so I think it's fair to say that poem is named Joy's Serenade. So why is he correcting people to say, you mean the long poem at the end of the book? You would think you could just confirm, yes, that is Joy's Serenade. Is that not Joy's Serenade? I mean, I guess I'm confused by that, why he needs to strictly call out that differentiation. And then my third instance that I picked up on in the Treasure Hunt with Us podcast was part 2 boxes. So we do have part 2 and part 1. We have part 2 boxes and we have a part 1 box, which I think is just a fact. But when they called it part 2 boxes, he corrected them and said, you mean the 4 similar sized boxes. So in all of these situations, why is he correcting people to compare them by size or to say the largest poem versus Joy's Serenade? Again, to reiterate, lion's share versus our largest treasure, I can understand the most. But with all of these instances of specifically correcting people, even when it is seemingly arguably still correct when it's said the other way, why do we think that is?
Yeah, in my mind, I think maybe the simplest explanation, if we think about Occam's razor, is these names may have been last minute type things. I mean, particularly for the lion's share. Thinking back, I think I'm going to have to double check, but I think there is a mention of our largest box, which contains the lion's share of the treasure, is probably where the lion's share came from. I think that's at least a partially correct quote. I'll have to re-look it up because I don't want to pull up my ebook right now. But that one, in response to publishing the ebooks, maybe he just had to come up with a title. The other four boxes, a little more tricky. I think maybe because he had been working on the treasure hunt for so long, 4 to 5 years, maybe he came up with the names kind of at the end. And in his mind, he's thinking about these as the largest box and the four similarly sized boxes for many years. And maybe that's how he has it filed away in his mind instead of the names that are posted in the part 2, which are the four sun box, etc. And I think that excuse could be used for Joy's Serenade as well. If he had written this long poem and kind of named it at the last minute Joy's Serenade, he might not be thinking of it as Joy's Serenade if that was kind of a last minute addition. So that's one theory.
I think my initial thought or theory is similar to Blake's and also kind of very Occam's razory, but with some slight differences. My initial thought was that he's expressed that he doesn't want to do the Forrest Fenn thing of being coy in the interviews and hiding little hints and stuff. He wants kind of the book to stand on its own. And I think that maybe he's trying to take like an almost overly generic approach to the way that he's talking about anything to make sure that either people don't read into it or he doesn't maybe slip up and accidentally say something that's very similar. And I think so he may just be approaching it from like, how generically can I possibly answer this question? That may be another explanation for why I'd be like, oh, it's not part 2, it's the four similarly sized boxes.
I like both of those interpretations. I think maybe what was catching me so off guard is like everything that he's kind of correcting with is referring to the size or the length. Like, why is it all about, I don't know. It just seemed odd but like you said, he had viewed it his way for so long. Or it could be more strategic of just making sure he's not getting himself in the weeds.
That's a good
I definitely
point.
agree that it's very interesting responses, an interesting way that he's choosing to phrase things.
Yeah, that's a good point, Bryn. I hadn't thought of as the long poem at the end. The smaller size box is the largest box. I didn't think about the size metric that he put on all three of those things. That's a good catch. Another way to think about this is that the names of these things are maybe more important than we imagine. Joy's Serenade, for example, maybe it has a different meaning besides just the name of the poem. And that's why he's avoiding saying it for some reason. It's
Joy's Serenade
important.
is particularly odd because he's not calling it that in the table of contents either.
Right. So maybe there's more to those names than we think for some reason.
But at the same time, if there was more to those names, if you're just reciting them as they are listed in the book, you're almost drawing more attention to it by not just saying the name that's in the book than
that's true.
Than saying it.
All right.
Well, I just was pondering it and wanted to get your guys' take. So I appreciate that. Food for thought. If anybody else has any ideas, I would love to hear.
No, that's a good note. Great question. All right. Should we dive into horseshoes and hand grenades? Bryn, you've got horseshoes and hand grenades today.
I do. I'll start by saying I'm very self-conscious of my horseshoes and hand grenades because I feel like the last few that you guys have done, you've had like presentations and decks, and it's been very well put together. So just a little disclaimer that mine here is more of just kind of a stream of notes. I was anticipating it being more succinct and organized maybe a presentation, but I kind of just got carried away with some momentum. So I think in a good way, it just kind of got a little out of hand. So I'm going to walk through some notes that I collected on the topic of generally like X marks the spot, points of intersection, very, I would say, cliche treasure hunting, if you will. So the reason that the idea of X marks the spot or this point of intersection is so of interest to me is, I think, a lot of reasons that are probably obvious. Like on the front of the book, in the back cover, we have this huge X, which is very appropriate for a treasure hunting book. But I think Jon Collins-Black is very intentional with everything that he's doing with the graphics and illustrations in this book. So I don't want to overlook huge X looking us right in the face from the very beginning. We also have this odd pick and shovel icon that shows up on the front cover, on the sleeve. We have it right at the beginning of the book. We have it on the closing of the book, which, again, this icon is pretty weird because we've been instructed not to dig. We don't need to be doing anything dangerous. So it seems like this icon with these crossing tools stands out even more for that reason. Another kind of point of intersection cross instance, I think, is the fact that we switched to Roman numerals in part 2 of the book for the chapters. I think there can be a ton of reasons for this, and I'm sure we all have a list of reasons why, but I think it could potentially be another instance to kind of bring in that X marks the spot aspect. And also the coins. So the coins all highlight points of intersection and angles. So that all feels pretty relevant as well with our mysterious coins. So I just wanted to start out when I was doing my research with like, what is really the origins of X marks the spot? We all know it means treasure is here, but where did this really come from? So it's obviously a treasure hunting cliche, location of hidden treasure. Historically, it was used in like surveying and navigational maps. So it was never like, I mean, I'm not gonna like overcomplicate something simple, but it wasn't necessarily like always tied to treasure. It was also just indicating like here or here in any map making process. X marks the spot as treasure was really popularized with Edgar Allan Poe's short story The Gold Bug, which that story actually then inspired Treasure Island. So if you want to pull up
Interesting.
my Treasure Island picture, Blake, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, we've talked about the gold bug before, haven't we?
Yes.
We did. All right. So if you're just listening, basically what we've pulled up here is just an image of the original Treasure Island book map. Okay. So when I was looking at this map, we have a compass here, and you can really see all of these bearing lines coming off the compass, which is interesting. Because again, I'm kind of thinking coins and these lines and intersections and this roadmap idea that we've always been talking about. And with these compass bearing lines, it makes me think about ship navigation. So the bearings would be telling the sailors which angle to travel at, which again brings in angles, the coin angles. So as I was thinking about compasses, I realized, well, a compass, we also call a compass rose, which piqued my interest because don't we have a few instances of roses being mentioned in the lion's share? So that seemed interesting. I was also thinking of like Cardinal North being mentioned in the Moonrock chapter, and just flowers in general. So in the 14th century, sailors in Europe called the compass a wind rose, which we also have a lot of mention of wind in the book. So wind rose, those two things together was like, well, this seems particularly interesting with the idea of a compass. It was called a windrose because it showed the direction of the winds, and then over time that became known as the compass rose.
Hmm.
And the design of the compass often looked like a flower, so the points radiated outwards to look like petals, and early map makers in the Middle Ages decorated them with floral patterns. So I was not, I guess, ever thinking really about like the compass tying in with flowers. And I know we have a lot of flower, botanical connections, and I especially like the rose connection. Um, so I guess the compass was kind of like my first example of points of intersection as navigation, if you're thinking of these bearing lines. So when I'm thinking of this X marks the spot idea, points of intersection angles, I mean, we're looking for a location ultimately. So I wanted to talk about points of intersection as navigation. Another instance of that would be latitude and longitude. So Earth's grid system is the system of intersecting lines, or sorry, intersecting circles. So that's where we get longitude, latitude, which seems fair and relevant, especially when we think through the interpretation of missing page 90 as minus 90 as a longitude. So that is kind of another intersecting line take that we could be applying to the book. And then I also was thinking celestial. So we have the stars and the moon used as navigation before compasses. The moon's rising and setting points on the horizon acted as a rough bearing. I know we love the idea of eclipses. So eclipse, huge on the idea of intersections. So we have points of intersection, the lunar nodes. Those are crucial for eclipses. That is why they are caused. And then also, then of course, bringing this back to the Hopi tribe. The Hopi calendar is based on careful observation of the sun and moon intersection with the mountains. And they actually had sun watchers in each village who tracked the sun's rising point and horizon throughout the year. So you can probably see where I'm saying now. I kind of just had a stream of notes that I just kind of all felt were interesting and tied back to the book in ways that I hadn't necessarily connected before. I have one other kind of group of ideas here, specifically on Roman numerals, because I know I was talking about how I liked kind of the concept of, well, why do we have these Roman numerals in part 2 specifically? Like, why did he switch there? Which again, there's tons of reasons why this could be. But I wanted to bring up the Roman numerals because from what I'm understanding, Roman numerals originally came from like a tally mark system, which tally marks jumped out at me because of probably past and future box. But many historians believe that Roman numerals originally came from the way people counted on their hands. And everybody knows I love a hand theme in the book. So basically with this, if you think of counting like 1 through 4 are just your fingers, like tally marks. 5 would be 4 fingers with your thumb, creates a V. And then 10 would basically be like 2 V's together, creating that X. X marks the spot. So anyways, that's kind of a ramble. I would say horseshoes and hand grenades, because I don't really know what this gets us. I don't think it really progressed me beyond maybe what we already knew. Like, I don't know, where else does this take us? Like, now am I supposed to be learning more about a compass and navigation? But I think maybe what it ultimately kind of made me land on is like, I think we have to figure out what our method of navigation is to figure out like what our roadmap approach is, if that makes sense. But anyways, I would love to hear any of your thoughts, or if there was anything from my list of notes that was of interest or popped out to you guys.
Yeah, I've got probably 3 things. Well, 2 things. You guys can't see it right now, but I'm going to look. I think there was a mention of the word bearing before.
Oh.
That I know we had talked about before. So, but the team couldn't always couldn't allow their conditions to have a negative bearing. Their next game was a rematch with the mighty Brazil. So that was in the Olympics soccer chapter. And there's also a mention of a glory-bearing city. I believe in chapter 3. But I know we had picked out bearing as a weird word before, and those are the 2 instances I can find in the line share. So your mention of bearing brought that to front of mind. The other thing is my favorite line in the book, which is
on a pistol.
Correct. So I was just looking up whether the letter B appears on a compass rose, since you made that connection about the compass rose looking like a flower.
Yeah.
So is
I like that.
Is there a B on a compass? The letter B on a compass. And sure enough, in the 32-point compass rose, there is B's that are used. North by east, northeast by north, northeast by east, and that's symbolized as an NEBE, for example.
I like that.
Anyway,
I like that take a lot.
Making an interesting jump there, but you've spurned some inspiration in me.
I think that's really clever. Yeah, I mean, if this compass is supposed to be our interpretation of a pretty big botanical theme, I would say, or I would say the theme is carried throughout the book. That could be a big find.
Maybe. I don't know what you'd do with that information with such a high resolution compass, I say, but anyway, stream of consciousness. Cody?
I had to look back through my notes also while you were talking there, Bryn, because it reminded me when I saw your compass with all the different lines. It reminded me of something I read when I was doing all the Hopi research, and all I really wrote down is that they had things associated with intercardinal directions, like strong associations to specific things, and that's all I've got without jumping back into more research. But it definitely reminded me of that when I saw your compass pointing in different directions. So maybe we can tie that into Blake's point too.
And cardinal has come up before in the part 1 section. I know that has come up before too. So maybe there's more connections to compasses than we realize. But that's a very clever connection, Bryn, overall.
Yeah, this is probably a huge stretch, but I was like, well, the compass being round and like, I mean, is that supposed to have something to do with the Hopi calendar and how we're interpreting the Hopi calendar in a certain way? Like, is that supposed to be able to coordinate with different directions we're getting from a compass that we're making from the things we're gathering in the book? I don't know. Anyways, like I said, like this is just very much a first pass through it, kind of a stream of consciousness of what I was gathering as I was looking through some notes. So I definitely think there's more to explore here. But at this state, it's kind of at a standstill for me.
But this was
also
go ahead, Cody.
I was just going to say that I also enjoyed the history lesson. I wouldn't have even had a somewhat accurate guess as to how the X started originally. I do find it, half of me finds it interesting that I feel like it's like the third time that Goldbug's been referenced, the Edgar Allan Poe short story.
Mm-hmm.
But the other half of me is like, it's an early American writing about finding treasure, and we've been searching for treasure for 10 months. So maybe it's not, that special. It has come up a few times, but I don't know, maybe interesting.
Yeah. I mean, did you mention the X on the cover, Bryn? Okay. Mm-hmm. So the X on the cover, the crossed pickaxe and shovel, and then there is also mention of X marks the spot in the line share section.
That's a wonderful question.
Okay.
I actually did not. I don't have a searchable copy, so I did not.
I'll look it up
look
later.
for it.
Okay. All right.
But I think with the coins especially,
And the
as
coins. Yeah.
highlighting these points of intersection and these lines, it just feels like they're very navigational, which
And
is nothing groundbreaking, but
let's not forget about these symbols on the magnifying glass as well.
that's right. That's right. Actually, so I was kind of getting lost. I had to cut myself off because I was just going down a rabbit hole. But when I was getting into the origins of Roman numerals, like if you kind of take a step back into the systems that then led it to Roman numerals, like there's all sorts of different symbol alphabets that we could be looking into that I think could be argued as relevant to the hunt. Um, Beyond, I mean, I think we were pretty stuck on the runes before.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
What about
but I think
Sanskrit, for example?
Yeah, I think there's opportunity to be looking for these symbols in a lot of other ways. Because there was very similar. I was kind of looking. I know we had that upside down cup. That was kind of what we would continue to get hung up on. So I've been trying to keep an eye out for that upside down cup in a different alphabet language. But I could not let myself wander too far in that direction at this point.
Okay. Cool. Cody, you have other thoughts?
One thing that was just kind of rattling around in my head for a few minutes since you brought it up, Blake, was the Brazilian soccer team quote that you read, and the idea of a negative bearing, and the more than just the word bearing, but the combination of words negative bearing kind of tripped something in my mind, and I couldn't get over it for a few minutes. So I just Googled it, and the AI response is that in the context of navigation and surveying, negative bearing is not a standard term. Bearings are typically measured in degrees clockwise from north, ranging from 0 to 360. Negative angles or bearings measured clockwise from south are sometimes used in specific contexts like mathematics or computer programming. So maybe two other things to look into as it relates to bearings.
There's also one other thing I wanted to note on the topic of compasses and flowers. I can't remember where in history this was specifically but it was common for north on a compass to be represented with a fleur de lis, which is the little French flower. And I know we have some specific French instances in the lion's share as well. So overall, I think there's more research to be done with navigational systems and maybe specifically the compass and these bearing lines.
Everything leads back to Paris. That's the conclusion I've drawn from this treasure hunt and all the research I've done. Everything leads back to Paris somehow.
Paris or Venus, one of the two. 36,000 foot view. Is that 360 degrees? Triggered that thought.
Ooh,
that's good. That's really good.
Maybe.
I mean, that's probably the best interpretation I've heard of it so far. I think that's great.
All right. Interesting. Lots of food for thought. Thank you, Bryn. Should we go into mailbag?
Mailbag. We've got mail.
So just a single mailbag today, but it's worthy of a PowerPoint presentation. So, folks, if you're listening only to the audio version, you'll probably be fine, actually. But there are a few visuals associated with this that I have a presentation on. So we got pretty close to this discussion last week with Cody's Horseshoes and Hand Grenades about the roadmap and Cody's theory about trying to come up with a series of numbers that gradually get smaller to lead you to a specific location or the lion's share treasure, particularly. And so we were touching on Fibonacci sequences and other types of number patterns. And we've had some mail contact with a person that I will keep anonymous for now because I'm not sure if they want their name said. Let me open up the PowerPoint real quick. And I think I will go on record and say I think this is a very important clue for the lion's share. On the order of page 90, in my opinion, that this is a solid clue. I don't know how to interpret it yet, but we do want to bring it to the audience's attention so that they can start thinking about it and coming up with ideas on how to use this information. So this is in relation to chapter 13, the Michael Jordan chapter. Let me pull up the presentation.
I feel like we need a graphic that's like a stamp of approval for what is a clue.
Exactly. All right, you guys can see this okay?
Yes.
All right, so this is chapter 13, the best of its class Jordan rookie card. And there's reasons why I think this is a solid clue. It's too much of a coincidence, A, and B, it's in a section that's Jon Collins-Black history. It's not a historical account, so there is a lot of room for Jon to be putting clues more in these sections, in my opinion, than in some of the more historical, factual things.
You don't think JCB remembered the scores of the basketball games?
That's
by quarter from when he was in high school.
No, not even high school, in middle school. All right.
Middle school, yeah. Sorry.
So let's dive into it. You might remember this story as the one where Jon Collins-Black makes the basketball team, finally gets into a game near the end of the season, and then accidentally scores on the wrong basketball hoop. The most embarrassing moment of his life. But there are, yes, very specific numbers, and the numbers, I think, have an interesting pattern. And this pattern was pointed out to us by a listener in the mailbag. All right, so let's recap. Jon Collins-Black made the basketball team. There's a big audience because it's, I don't know if it's like homecoming or what, but anyway, there was a big pep rally and they had a large audience. He talks about our team playing well. We led by 10 points in the first quarter and 15 in the second. The end of the third quarter, our lead had ballooned to 21 points. With 2 minutes and 34 seconds remaining, that's a very interesting memory to have. We led by 28 points. So, I don't know. We've all played sports, right? You don't have a memory of specifics of a single game like this in your memory, do you?
No.
And not, yeah.
That's impossible. From a middle school. I mean, it was a traumatic experience, but you would remember the traumatic experience. You wouldn't remember all of the scoring history leading up to this, I don't think.
Plus, he wasn't traumatized at this point. You don't get retroactive memory enhancement from trauma.
It was in his mind that this is a game he might be able to get into, right? Because he said earlier in this chapter, 2 of the players on the opposing team were injured. So this, in his mind could have been an opportunity that he might get into the game if it was a blowout. So it's possible. We'll leave it in the, okay, not possible.
No, it's not possible.
It's not possible.
My co-hosts here. All right, no benefit of the doubt. Okay, so What is interesting about these numbers? So first quarter, they're up by 10. Second quarter, they're up by 15. Third quarter, they're up by 21. Fourth quarter, they're up by 28. And that's when he gets into the game at 2 minutes and 34 seconds. So we'll take a little bit of liberty. Obviously, 10, 15, 21, 28 are clearly called out. 234, I think, is a little bit more controversial. The listener pointed out that 2 plus 34 equals 36. If we take that into account, we have a rising series of numbers. So between 10 and 15 is 5, a difference of 5. 15 to 21 is a difference of 6. 21 to 28 is a difference of 7. 28 to 36, if you take the liberal interpretation here, that's a difference of 8. So, coincidence? or
No.
not?
Maybe.
Maybe. If we expand that out, this is what's called a triangular number. So if we started with 0, add 1, you'd get 1. Add 2, you'd get 3. Add 3, you'd get 6. Add 4, you'd get 10. So this seems beyond coincidental to me that these numbers have to mean something. He's trying to point out a pattern of some sort. And what to do with this pattern of numbers, I'm not sure yet. But we do want to bring it to the attention of the audience to see what they can make of it. Because, like I said, in my opinion, this is extremely important in my mind. If we look at triangular numbers, you can see kind of the series up to, I cut it off at 1485 here at the bottom. But there is a specific term for that, and that is triangular number. So is it the triangle that's important here, or is it the series of numbers, or is it both? I think that's up to interpretation, but pointing out a clear series of at least 4 triangular numbers, and maybe a 5th if you take into account the 2:35, 2 minutes 34 seconds. The odds of Jon Collins-Black just coming up with those numbers randomly seems highly unlikely, in my opinion.
Yeah, especially when you think 234 is 234. Like, it all just kind of fits together too perfectly.
Yes.
Yeah. Part of me wants to think like, oh, it's just trying to highlight the concept of triangle.
Okay.
But I think with how many numbers are in the book, I mean, even outside of like just what's in there for historical context, it seems like he forces a lot of numbers.
Mm-hmm.
That unfortunately, I think maybe there's more of like a mathematical component to it, which I am not a fan of. But I guess I would lean to there being more to it than just the triangle component.
Yeah, so can we expand that out to page numbers, for example?
Mm-hmm.
This is the list here for reference. There's also the association with Pascal's triangle, which probably a lot of people are familiar with from middle school math, early high school math. The concept of the 2 numbers above the number below, the 2 numbers above sum to the number below. That makes this Pascal's triangle. This series of numbers also appears in Pascal's triangle on the 3rd diagonal, I would say. So 1, 3, 6, 10, 15, 21, 28, 36, 45, etc. So another connection to a triangle, whether it's Pascal's triangle or a triangular number, both definitions fit in here.
Trying to remember one of our chapter recaps, was it the Picasso chapter where like we were trying to make a connection to Pedro Pascal, right? That's all I could think of since you said Pascal.
So Pedro Pascal was actually the connection to chapter 23, which is just a meme of Pedro Pascal.
Right.
To the song of March to the Beat of a Different, make your own type of music. Yes. So
yeah.
That
okay.
I don't think
Never
is
mind.
a real clue. Or strike that from the record.
I didn't think it was like actually. I just remember talking about Pedro Pascal and I couldn't remember the context.
So yeah, that's about all I've got. A little bit more digging, thinking about Cody's horseshoes and hand grenades from last week. In this chapter, they talk about practice began and it was hard. We'd run for miles on the football track every day before touching a basketball. There's a couple instances of 2s and 3s, so not only in 2 minutes 34 seconds, but this interesting line, I think, here. That week of tryouts was a blur. At some point, I got past the humiliation of wearing jeans the first day. I hit a few shots and made some nice passes. I played aggressive defense, and I didn't give an inch, so to get another unit of measure. I had a steal or 2 or 3. I mean, that's a little bit odd.
Super weird.
So what did we do with that? And in fact, 2/3 of the season had gone by, and I had not played 1 second of any game. So for all of these coins, you brought it up earlier, Brandon, I mean, we have for each of those 2/3 of a triangle, right? On each coin.
Yeah.
So does this somehow relate to the coins? Should we make a triangle out of the coins, and maybe that reveals some additional information, especially if he talks about 2 and 3 and 2/3 a couple times in this chapter. Anyway, it's a bit of a stretch, but it did catch my eye.
Yeah, this chapter seems, I don't know. When you get back to all the chapters, it's just like, this is why Lion Share is so overwhelming. Oh my gosh. I mean, just in these 3 paragraphs alone, it's like there's just so much to dissect.
Right. But yeah, I am putting a stamp of approval on this clue,
Totally.
Even though we don't necessarily have a good solve for it yet.
I will say that I agree that something's there, and I endorse your stamp.
Okay.
But how hard is it to pull that back up?
No, I can pull it back up. Yep.
Okay, if you want to go back to your first slide, I just want to play devil's advocate for 1 second, because I'm sure that some people will be thinking this. So you're creating your number sequence that goes 10, 15, 21, 28, 36.
Mm-hmm.
I think one more slide back with your highlights of the actual text. So I think it's the first slide.
Yep.
And he's, as we discussed, he's choosing his own numbers here. So he's doing 10, 15, 21. Those are all very straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
But then he's jumping to this 2 minutes and 34 seconds,
Mm-hmm.
which we're adding up to equal 36, and then going back to 28.
Mm-hmm.
So my first problem is, I guess it's not even the first problem. I guess ultimately playing devil's advocate, how do you explain why he wouldn't just say we led by 10, then 15, then 21, and then with 28 seconds left, we were up by 36? It seems like we're doing more manipulation there, unless he's just trying to make it harder, but that doesn't really feel valid to just say, oh, he's trying to make it harder, so he's scrambling some things up, when the whole purpose of this is that it's in a very specific sequence, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's my devil's advocate statement. But beyond that, it definitely does seem like there's something there. Yeah, I got a little bit of heartburn if he's trying to indicate a specific sequence, but then is just arbitrarily making it harder by swapping part of that sequence. That just it's hard to justify that in my mind.
I think maybe the 2, 3, 4, maybe that's kind of a dual purpose. Like, yes, it gets us to the next number in the sequence, but then it also ties back to this idea of a shot or a point or 2 or 3, whatever he's saying, where it's kind of like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4. And maybe just kind of like introducing the idea of like, look for the sequence.
Look for a sequence, yeah.
And I could even get behind the idea of like, oh, you have to add the 2 and the 34.
Yeah.
But I guess, I mean, first, the biggest thing would be, why not say we're up by 10, then 15, then 21, and then we're up by 28 points with only 2 minutes and 34 seconds left.
Yeah.
Like you could have that exact same sentence, but in the right order, in keeper 2, 3, 4. Why would you choose to not?
Yeah, I could see it for obfuscation reasons. I think that's completely legitimate that it's not all exactly lined up, but it's
which really, I would agree with if the whole intent of this wasn't to create a specific sequence of numbers. Anyway, ultimately, I don't want it to come off like I'm bashing it too hard, because I agree that I think something's there. But I think there is a valid devil's argument to make there too.
Sure. Anyway, super cool.
Be nice to me during my segments.
No. No, it's good. It's good to throw questions and throw darts out there. That's perfect. All right. Any last thoughts? So yeah, audience, you've been tasked to throw ideas about what to do with these numbers to us, and we'd love to share them with everybody. But yeah, this is a super cool finding. I think it's super important. I hope it breathes some life into the TTI community, because I think we're a little bit stagnant right now. But anyway, super cool finding. I think it's important. That's all.
I also appreciate your font choice on slide 2.
Thank you. Yeah, I had to download
Very
that
nice.
font special. I had.
Did you really?
I had. Well, yeah. There was actually there was a quote that I wanted to include here, because it was also a weird quote. And maybe it's in the last slide that I didn't point out. Sorry. Shoot, I might not have included it. But it was about how the bright lights of the scoreboard burned into his eyes. The bright red light burned into his eyes. Something like that. And it looks like I omitted it here, but there was a reason why I wanted to make them red, is because of that line. So
Good attention to detail. The joy is in the details.
the joy is in the details. Now I'm super curious. I want to find the line. Sorry for awkward silence, but I want to get it right. Because it was another strange line.
Very reminiscent of the eyes like blue lasers.
Totally.
Exactly. All right. Okay, I looked up at the clock. Its red electronic numbers burned bright. So it's actually a flame connection. But why he pointed that out explicitly. I looked up at the clock. Its red electronic numbers burned bright.
That's
What do
his
we do?
explanation for why he remembers how much time was left.
That's right.
Burned bright into his eyes.
Okay. Should we dive into Discord detectives? Cody, you've got Discord detectives today.
All right. So this one's going to be very out of the blue. I know that Bryn's got her Pokemon box. It's kind of like the one that she's been working most on. I know, Blake, you've got your Past or Future box. I kind of started Past the Future box for a few weeks at the very beginning, and then have kind of just been floating around. Out of the blue, got real hooked on the Forest Fen one, which is, it's tough. It's tough to get hooked on the Forest Fen one as someone who wasn't involved in the original Forest Fen hunt. So it feels like I'm starting research on it 5, 10, however many years after everyone else. So it just feels like a lost cause already. But I found something I liked and I got hooked on it. And I got really excited and called Bryn and Blake, as you both know, during the week to pitch the idea to you and say, hey, look at my cool area. I feel like it ticks a lot of boxes. And I'm sure it's something we'll probably talk about here in coming episodes. All that to say, one thing that we got kind of hung up on was the Thinker's Stone. So I spent quite a bit of time on the Discord. It seemed like we had different ideas of what the Thinker's Stone might mean, / wanted other input on what the Thinker's Stone might mean. So I did a lot of looking into Thinker's Stone in general on Discord, consolidated some of kind of the community's ideas of what it could be. And then I want to talk about each of those and then talk about a couple other things as well. But if you want to pull up my photo I sent you, Blake, basically has everything on it in one little infographic here. So I want to start by talking about different interpretations of Thinker's Stone that I found on Discord or just I have already been aware of as just kind of consensus ideas, or well-known ideas, I guess. So the first one we've talked about previously, and it's the idea that the thinker's stone is kind of synonymous with a philosopher's stone. We talked way back when we first kind of did like the big part 2 episode for the Forest Fen box about some of the things associated with philosopher's stone. The biggest one being that it can turn metals into silver and gold. Seems very on brand for a find a treasure. It could also do a couple other things, and I'm struggling to remember all of them. But it was like create clones and what was it? A couple other kind of very few and far between references to other things it could do. But definitely the big one was turning metals into silver and into gold.
Mm-hmm.
Another consensus, I keep using the word consensus, I don't think that's the right word, but another
point of discussion,
another frequent idea that people have, another frequent interpretation that people in the community seem to have for the thinker's stone is, I wrote here 2 different line items, but literal stone big and literal stone small. So some people are thinking thinker stone is a literal stone that fits the idea of thinkers for a variety of different reasons, but something maybe like the size of like the side of a mountain. And then other people, kind of similar concept, thinker stone for a number of different reasons, but more of like a stone that you could climb on or over. And it's like the size of like a boulder, basically. Mm-hmm. So those ones I think we're all very aware of. I know that we're all also aware of the sodalite idea. So sodalite being a mineral that is known as like the thinker's stone, and it is in a handful of different areas in the US, but the only one that really is in the area of interest would be in Colorado. I know that is like one of the leading theories is that, hey, sodalite is literally named or known as thinker's stone. The next 3 all reference the statue called The Thinker by Rodin, which is, I think, a very well-known bronze statue. I think it's bronze. Yeah, I think Blake is purposely doing the pose right now, it looks like.
The Thinker.
So one interpretation is that the thinker stone could be basically the stone that's depicted in the statue, the thinker, which is like basically the size and shape of that stone, which is kind of the size of like, I kind of picture it like a tree stump that you'd like sit on, and it's big. I know I'm very, very descriptive. Okay, so now we're getting into, those are kind of things that multiple people have talked about on Discord or other areas online. Now I want to talk about some specific ones that I only saw mentioned like once by some specific users, and all the usernames are listed there too. One person talked about some other interpretations of kind of the thinker statue as the thinker stone. One of them is that there's some theories outside of the treasure hunt. There are some theories that the thinker itself depicts Dante from Dante's Inferno. And that they thought that there just maybe, I mean, this one's pretty vague, but maybe there's some connections between Dante and the Thinker's Stone. I haven't had a chance to really look into that much. And then the other one was also based on the Thinker, and they were thinking that the Thinker's Stone could be a reference to the material that the statue, the Thinker, was made out of. And they referenced marble, and it looks like there are some kind of like replicas made of marble. It was originally made of bronze, so it could, Thinker Stone could be a reference to bronze or marble. Another one, this one was kind of half literal, half metaphorical. But one user was talking about the Thinker Stone possibly being slate and being like more of Thinker because it's like a blackboard material. That's what makes it like a Thinker's Stone. I thought that one was kind of interesting. Um, Another user talked about the Thinker Stone possibly being like if the treasure was hidden somewhere in like very shallow water, and that there was a stone they literally like jump onto to reach down and get it without getting wet, that would be like a thinker's solution, I guess, like a smart solution, and it's the Thinker Stone, and kind of fits more with the actual context of the poem itself. The Thinker Stone is all you need to get to it. Um, so that one I thought was interesting. I don't really buy into that one, but I thought it was interesting. And then the last few here get even more
Woo woo.
out of the box, let's say. So one person thought that the Thinker Stone could just be like a metaphor for intuition, which could be. It feels like if you go that route, it almost gets too vague to be very helpful. But it is an interesting interpretation. Another user talked about it being a literal stone. There's kind of two parts to this. It was a literal stone, and they referenced kind of a known piece of jewelry that was a stone um, that someone would like rub while they were thinking.
Mhm.
And then they said it's also would be like of the size of a piece of bread dough that had just been kneaded, and tied that into the idea of all you need is a Thinker's Stone, which is
Oh,
creative, if nothing
I like
else.
that. I like that.
Is this Pokemon box or
We
Forest
love the
Fed box?
wordplay.
Huh.
And then the last person thought that the Thinker's Stone could be in reference to a toilet.
Nice.
Obviously ties into the idea of a white mark shows upon the seat as well.
Interesting.
So I'm not sure how serious that one was, but that's basically I've basically at this point, I think, condensed all of the different interpretations that I've seen over the different forms of sharing ideas about treasure inside.
Mhm.
So I have thoughts on a lot of them. I'm not going to talk about each one. I think that my biggest thought, though, as it pertains to kind of just all the different ideas as a whole, has to do with the context in which we see Thinker's Stone in the poem. Because I think that a lot of people are just taking the words Thinker's Stone completely out of context in a vacuum and going, all right, we need to find a Thinker's Stone. And that's where you're coming up with something like, a big stone that's the side of a mountain, or like sodalite, something like that.
Mhm.
And I'm having a tough time buying into those ideas because of the context that you find it in. He doesn't say a Thinker's Stone is what you need to find. He says a Thinker's Stone is all you need. So it feels to me like the Thinker's Stone, I guess is exactly what he's saying. It is you need it for a purpose other than to just find something that is a Thinker's Stone.
Mhm.
So for me, something more like in conjunction with the next line, a Thinker's Stone is all you need. The spot is set with marble gaze. Like a Thinker's Stone being something that you'd like climb up and sit upon to view something. And that's like the marble gaze. And the
Okay.
Thinker's Stone is like something that you actually physically need. And it's almost like I'm not really endorsing the idea of the stone being something that you jump onto to fish the treasure out of shallow water. But I almost think that thought process is much more in line with the context of the Thinker Stone in the poem, that it's almost like a tool more than something that you're searching for. It's not a Thinker Stone is something you need to find, but it's something that you need for the rest of the lines there. The last thing I want to talk about go ahead.
Just thinking about what you've highlighted here, and your context quote or number there, a Thinker's Stone is all you need is a little bit different than the Thinker's Stone is all you need, right? So if it was the Thinker's Stone is all you need, that would point me maybe in a direction of a specific monument or a specific waypoint, such as the Thinker statue. But it's not saying the Thinker stone, so it's not a singular thing the way it's written here. It is more of a conceptual thing or something that exists many places, right? Because it's a, not the. So
that's a really good point. No, yeah, I like that take a lot. I've been thinking more about the blue highlighted areas than what you just brought up. But no, I think what you brought up actually is very important. I'm kind of thinking through that now. So my favorite one, and it may be my favorite, to full transparency here, it may be my favorite because it's the one that I think would most easily fit with the solution I'm excited about right now.
Okay.
But I kind of want the solution to be that it is a stone the size and shape generally of the one from the statue, the Thinker, that you'd sit on in like a kind of a special spot that that has like an exceptional viewing point, and that it ties in with the marvel gaze.
So I'm trying to think of the Thinker statue. Have you looked at pictures of that recently? Is the Thinker sitting on like a natural stone or a shaped bench or something?
It's like a pretty square pedestal, isn't it?
I think it's like a rock though. Okay. It's definitely square, but I think it's depicting like a rock.
A naturally formed rock.
It looks natural, yeah. Do you want to? Are you pulling something up, or do you want me to?
No, I won't. I don't think I'll be able to pull it up easily. Unless you want to share your screen. It might be worth doing if you're comfortable.
Yeah, let me.
You might want to download it.
Give me like 2 seconds.
Yeah, you might want to download it and then pull it up on its own screen.
Well, as you're doing that, I'll give my commentary.
Yeah.
I think kind of reading that stanza that you had highlighted on the screen makes me think that the Thinker's stone is directly correlated to the act of sitting, which is kind of what you were saying, Cody. Okay, I like that. We're looking at the shape that the Thinker is sitting on, because it is distinct. That's not what I was picturing.
Yeah.
It has kind of like this concave edge to it.
Yeah.
Where his feet are. And it kind of looks like a toilet.
It does.
I think it looks like a loaf of bread.
It does look like a loaf of bread.
Just needs to be kneaded.
But what I was going to say is that if you kind of take that stanza as a whole, like the I need it in front of me again. But like it does.
Let's pull that back up because I need it too.
Okay, sorry.
I will pull it back up.
But it does seem like if you're gonna be saying a white mark shows upon the seat, like the seat ties in very well with the Thinker's stone.
Mm-hmm.
And because I feel like it all ties together too, because of the spot is set with marble gaze. So is the spot somehow then directly tying in with a white mark?
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, now that you've said it, Cody, it does feel like the act of sitting is something to be done upon the Thinker's stone.
And I think it could also fit well still with Blake's comment that I really like about a Thinker's stone versus the Thinker's stone. Because I think that there could still be, I think if I was writing it and what I was trying to describe is sitting on a stone that looks like that to oversee some special thing. I think I'd write a Thinker's stone, not the Thinker's stone, because there'd be multiple stones that exist in the world. It's just, so it's not necessarily like, yeah, you know what I'm saying. I think it fits with the versus the.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Cool. Super.
Were you going to say something, Blake, before I keep going here?
Nope. I interrupted you. Sorry.
but you don't have anything.
I don't.
Okay. I want to touch on one other thing, and that is some specific punctuation. We've kind of been talking about the second part here, which is the semicolon after a thinker's stone is all you need, and then the spot is set with marble gaze, comma, a white mark shows upon the seat. So that's all one sentence there, which definitely can affect kind of how you think about the thinker's stone, and which interpretation kind of does and doesn't make sense. The other one that I thought was interesting, I ended up probably look into this a little bit more because it's something I tacked on right at the end here. But shouldn't campers have an apostrophe? Or would that not have an apostrophe?
If it's a
campers, not.
If it's people.
I mean, if thinkers has an apostrophe, I would think campers does, but I don't know. We did an English major to write it.
Here was also spelled wrong in Forrest Fenn's poem, so
Yeah.
I don't know how much stock we can put into
Punctuation,
the English language generally here, but
yeah,
let me think about that a bit more. But yeah, I think I know a very good editor that I can ask that question to, if what context not having an apostrophe there would make sense.
yeah. I guess you're right though in that even if they come back and say, "Hey, that you should have an apostrophe there," I think I'd just say, "Well, he doesn't." more than any deeper meaning, right? So
right. No, that's a good catch. I just don't know what to make of it.
yeah. All right. I think the last thing I was going to say, I kind of told you which one's my favorite, and that may be again out of necessity and more desire for that one to be the right one than anything else. But do you guys, out of my list there, do any stand out to you guys as kind of your leading theories or kind of gut feeling ones?
I mean, I originally, prior to this, I think I was definitely sold on the philosopher's stone idea for a few reasons. But now, kind of sticking on this one stanza and dissecting it, I like the idea of it being this like physical place that you are sitting. So I guess that would be that's my new favorite.
Yeah, I think I still somewhat lean towards the Philosopher's Stone connection, just because that could have many meanings. Not that helps us, but I like that one. And then the new one that I really like that you pulled out here, Cody, is the slate, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the slate as being, something an ancient philosopher or mathematician would be using as a material to do an equation on or like chisel out, right? That's kind of interesting. That's a new one.
Yeah. It's an interesting one. It does kind of go back to, for me, unless there's some other context there, I think it has to be more than like, oh, there's just slate in the area. There needs to be like a reason, like a use or using it as a tool for something.
Yeah, I mean,
what if there's both of those things could be true in certain contexts.
Even a petroglyph or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. If we're thinking boots on the ground, let's just keep that in mind. I don't think it fits quite as well as what you guys are saying, but I think it's an interesting thing to keep in the back of your mind.
It is clever.
My only heartburn is if the thinker stone ends up being the stone, like the thinker, and you sit on it to look at something, to gaze upon something marvelous, then kind of given the punctuation there, it does feel like the white mark would need to be like on that stone versus I really, really like our solution that we've been talking internally about, and I'm sure we will talk about on the podcast in the next couple episodes. But I really like our white mark solution that we had found, and that doesn't really fit with that. Mm-hmm. I'm being so confirmation biased. I'm trying to smash to fit everything because I really like it.
So, how much overlap is there between this section of Jon Collins-Black's poem and then the original Forrest Fenn? Have you looked into that?
This one, Yeah, I have. And this is, I mean, I don't have it in front of me right now, but this is one of the ones that was more heavily JCB and less borrowed material. I think the Marvel Gaze
Yeah.
was a borrowed phrasing.
Yes.
The Thinker's Stone and the White Mark, I think, were JCB items.
Yes. If you've been wise and found the blaze, look quickly down, your quest to cease. But tarry scant with Marvel gaze. Just take the chest and go in peace. So yeah, it is all new content in terms of the Thinker's Stone and the White Mark. Not so much the Marvel gaze. You're exactly right.
Marvel Gaze, I mean, that was at the end of the Forest Fem poem. And this stanza's towards the end, isn't it?
No, so the Marvel
sorry,
gaze is in the fourth of six stanzas.
Okay.
Yeah.
So middle-ish.
This one is, I feel like, kind of the same position. Let me flip to my book. But yeah, this is a nice deep dive for sure into this topic. All right. Yeah, so in the fourth stanza of JCB's poem is what we're looking at right here.
Okay. Thank you.
Cool. All right. I also have a Discord Detectives. It's a hybrid Discord Detectives and Mailbag. It's just breaking news from yesterday. I honestly don't know how breaking news it is. There seemed to be some skepticism, which I'll show, but it's about a red herring in the book. There's treasure inside.
So this is a Discord Detectives and Mailbag and news.
Yeah, something like that. So this was
Mash up the sound effects.
It's news because it was released on Calazar's podcast, so full credit to them, and I'm stealing their image. I took a screenshot, but according to one of the Calazar's listeners, there is a red herring in the book. Can you see it?
Oh, a literal red herring.
A literal red herring. So you can put a flashlight behind the Scotty picture in chapter 1. And it really does look like a fish there. Do you guys see that?
Yeah, I see it.
Like, is the device supposed to be the eye, like a fish eye?
Mm-hmm. And then the scales with the hexagonal.
Okay.
And then, so it's that UV illuminated emerald behind, on the picture behind, on the page behind. And if you shine a flashlight, it what looks like a red herring appears.
I've eaten enough Swedish fish to know what I'm looking at here.
So what does that mean? Does that mean that the flashlight behind a flashlight behind a page is a reasonable approach to finding clues, even though this is a red herring one? Does that mean there's other things you can find using this approach?
If so, it can't be anything critical because ebook.
Yep. That's one of my main arguments as well, is that would be disadvantageous to ebook only holders.
My gut is this red herring is a coincidence.
Really?
Yeah, you guys are like sold on that?
I'm not sold that it's not a coincidence, no.
I would.
I think it could definitely be a coincidence.
I'd be less inclined that it's a coincidence. It seems too perfect.
Interesting. I would not have expected that take. So I want to look at it in the book. What's like the actual context of one was under UV light and one wasn't?
Yep.
So there's like a reason to be showing both, but why would he?
And it's kind of the mirror image of the emerald. and this, you know, shining blue lasers is in this chapter. Eyes were shining like blue lasers. So there's a lot of, you know, light connections. And to have this,
it's funny. You know, let's just assume here that this is in there on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
You just indicated that if you saw this, that your take is to keep doing this and try it on other pages because he meant to put it there. I feel like my gut instinct would be he's showing a red herring to say, don't do this. It's not the right thing to do.
I can see both arguments, and I'd be happy with either. So I'm not set on that. I'm just throwing out ideas that this is an interesting take.
It's definitely interesting, yeah.
I think it's so obscure. There's no way he came up with that.
So this is from the chat. USA China says he put those scales, the hexagons, in 2 other places as well in the book. I don't know what those are.
Huh.
And then Cake says new, quote unquote, maybe 8 months ago. But I definitely was not tracking this. I did not see this as a clue before on the Discord. So it is new to me for sure.
Very interesting. I do know we've gotten at least one other email in the mailbag about someone thinking they found a clue shining a light through a page.
Okay.
Back. Yeah, I don't know. I am not convinced.
Can you go back one slide?
Sure.
But I will say, I mean, this is the picture we talked early on about, like, people thought it was mirrored. So that would be an argument for, like, he had to mirror the image to get the fisheye in the right spot, right?
Why is it there in the first place?
Yeah.
Why is there a picture of Scotty from Star Trek? Remember that conversation we had about 7 months ago?
Yeah. Granted,
Touché.
It's weird that that picture's there, and setting aside the fact that I shouldn't be digging deeper into something that looks like a red herring. But does it look like he's specifically measuring a fisheye in that picture then?
Yeah.
He's like awkwardly holding the measuring device.
Oh, you're right.
Specifically measure the fisheye.
Yeah, calipers. That's what those are.
And I feel like fisheye is also a term for a lot of different things. So that could lead to something. If you wanted to get carried away going down a rabbit hole after a red herring picture.
All we need is a 36,000 foot view with a fisheye lens. Solved.
Yes. Interesting. Huh?
Yeah, I thought it was super fun.
Oh my. I do like that it's using the aspects of just the physical book. And I think there are more just good, solid, clever ways to be using the book. I do like that. I do not know if I can be convinced of this.
And then, of course, it brings up back a conversation that we've talked to death at this point, but the whole, as Bryn mentioned, the ebook thing, and the ebook's not originally being part of the plan and coming out quickly, and there's multiple solutions for everything. So maybe the ebook just doesn't, you don't need to include all the things and yada, 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 but we've talked that to death. So
yeah, I mean, in some ways, if somebody were to take the ebook, they might have an advantage actually in doing some of these exercises because they have digital version that they could overlay, for example. So if one were to be interested in remaking this image with the ebook, they could do it. But I agree that I think that's a knock against this is the ebook, exactly as you said, Bryn.
Very clever.
Right. If other folks have come up with, light shining through pages to find interesting findings, like I would like to hear more about those for sure. More on the red herring topic, we have a bonus mailbag.
Mailbag. We've got mail.
So this is from Tim. We always have to start with a compliment. I've been enjoying your podcast tremendously. In the last few weeks, I've been on a road trip and listening as I drive. Excellent way to pass the time. Hopefully it doesn't like put you to sleep while you're driving, but and great mind puzzles. Still working my way through, trying to get current. Today, as I drove through southern Nevada, Utah, and into Arizona, I was listening to a previous podcast. Maybe it was chapter 12 from January 22nd, or perhaps the one before. I'm not entirely sure. But at some point, one of you mentioned the Appalachian footpath map and how there was perhaps a picture of a fish, leading to the idea of a red herring. Well, maybe I found another. The famous picture of the dancers on page 61 of chapter 5. The leftmost figure appears to be pointing at a third figure, pointing right at a fish-looking piece. Or perhaps it is better than that, and he or she is pointing at a real clue. So let me pull that up. So just as a recap, we've speculated, I think based on a Discord detective, that this compass on the Appalachian Trail map looks like a little red fish, especially if you zoom in. So is the compass a red herring? Is the compass pointing north being a red herring? Like the compass direction is wrong is kind of my speculation. And now Tim is pointing out that it looks like potentially a little fish in the Art Smith chapter dancers drawing. Right here in the bottom right, the figure that has the red necklace is pointing to a fish-looking shape in that figure. What do you guys think?
How did we not see that the first time?
I don't know.
It's like so out of place.
It is, and that's what I was thinking when I was looking at it again today, was it is kind of an odd shape. It doesn't look like other shapes that are in this particular drawing. So you're looking at the full figure, Bryn. What do you think?
It is very fishy. This picture in general.
Yeah.
Oof. I mean, come on. But yeah, no, when you do point that out, it is very out of place.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a couple of the things that feel out of place, like on the very, well, I guess you don't have it up on the screen, but like the figure on the very far right, there's kind of like a weird white cutout of the lower portion there. That's similar style, I guess, but it's not like, it's more geometric, where this fish, if you will, has a unique shape that's not as triangular.
Yeah, the art on this fish seems to contrast with
Yeah.
surrounding art and line weights and art style and all that. In a previous podcast, JCB had talked about like getting a Photoshop app and making alterations to some of the images. And it turns out all he did was just draw fish all over everything.
Yeah, that's a good point I didn't bring up. I'll put the link to the Calazars episode. It's near the end that they talk about this initial red herring behind Scotty. They speculated when they interviewed Jon Collins-Black, they specifically asked if there were red herrings in the book, and he avoided that question, and they think that's why, is because of the red herring behind Scotty in chapter 1. All right.
Yeah. It's just, if we have red herrings, it's just so hard.
Yeah, it gets overwhelming if you think about it too much.
Don't think about it too much, but also don't wing it. All right. Do we have a coincidence of the day?
Yes.
Bryn, you have coincidence of the day.
I do. So this coincidence of the day comes from when we went to New Mexico to visit Blake a couple weeks ago. If you can go ahead and pull up the image I sent you, Blake, we learned a new board game. Blake taught us a new board game while we were there visiting him, and this game is called A Feast for Odin. And
note.
Yes,
Side note, Blake's favorite game.
Blake
Fun
likes
fact.
this game.
Yes, that's a fun fact. So if anybody wants to
And
play
I
a
don't need-
Feast for Odin at Seeking Treasure Con, let me know.
We definitely don't need to get into the game mechanics here, but basically, I mean, you can like gather different materials and supplies as you would in a game. Was there a name for these pieces, Blake?
I'm sure there is, but materials is fine. Yeah.
Okay. It looked like you were going to correct me. so
No.
I didn't want to mess up. Anyways, one of these items materials I acquired was a bolt of fabric. And if you're looking at the image here, you can see a little four tile token that has a bolt of fabric image on it. And I was looking at it, I'm like, that's really curious. That actually does look like what I was calling the scroll on the Appalachian Footpath map. And I know someone earlier on had referenced it as a bolt of fabric, and I could not really see it as a bolt of fabric. But based off of this image, I was like, it really reminds me of the image on the Appalachian Footpath box map. So maybe it is a bolt of fabric. So that is my coincidence of the day.
Nice.
And it's in the lower left-hand corner of that grid. I know it looks super obvious to you too, but it took me a minute to find it. And I know what I'm looking for, and it still took me a second because it's green on green.
Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's kind of flatter, I guess, where I need to pull up my Appalachian Footpath box image. Oh no. Anyways, I don't have it right in front of me, but they are very similar.
I approve of that coincidence of the day. Stamped. All right. I think that's the episode, everybody. Again, lots of good Lion Share content for those looking to challenge themselves.
Yeah. Oof.
More questions than answers, but anyway, things to dwell on if you're getting stuck. So thanks everybody for listening. Have a good night.
Searching for clues, let's find you.